Going live. Boom. According to that, I am live. Welcome. This is Tokyo Tonight. My name is Hiko Simon. I'm here at 10:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time every week because I've got nowhere else to go. Good to see people already here in the chat, especially, again, on short notice. And not a lot of topics tonight, which causes me to confidently say, like I said last week, the show should just fly by. It was actually really good last night. I really did appreciate that people responded by giving lots of topics and questions and so on, which is actually it's an enjoyable way of doing it. But yeah, we'll see. It's been another kind of crazy week for me personally at work, and not a lot of news going on. A few things to talk about, so I'll definitely get you up to speed with what's happening in Japan at the moment. If you're down in Okinawa right now, stay safe. Of course, there's an enormous typhoon going through there at the moment, particularly Yonaguni, the areas near Taiwan. If you're in Taiwan, stay safe. But yeah, not a lot else going on. I actually, I accidentally, kind of not accidentally, I thought I'd add an extra couple of, last week I ran the furthest I've ever run in my life. I ran 17 kilometers, which is, I've got a 10k run that I normally do, and I thought I'd just do a little, I'd tag on the palace, the loop around the palace, which is like 5k, but I had to run 1k to it. From where I'd normally turn back. And so, yeah, I thought this week, what if I try getting to the palace a slightly different way, and I do a complete loop that you can measure? That'd be kind of cool. So I did that, and I had this kind of very clever plan for that. I'd go back through Kitamaru Koen, near the Budokan, where they do the Olympics, like judo and all the sort of where all the pro wrestling is when it goes to Japan, basically like the Japan National Martial Arts Center. So I thought I could skip back towards through there on the way back, but it turned out that it's all still walled off. I kept running into walls, so I had to turn around, and I ran like 2.5 more kilometers than I intended to, which as a result meant that I ran over 20k for the first time in my life today. So yeah, that was a thing that happened. I was kind of thinking I might get closer. I might see if I could extend my best distance, but I really wasn't aiming for 20 kilometers, but I got there unintentionally. So yeah, all in one piece. I mean, I didn't really strain myself too much. I kind of took it a little bit easy, but I noticed at one point, one thing I found with running is the Japanese tabi socks, with the 5-toe socks. Those things are amazing. I used to get blisters all the time from my toes, rubbing against each other when I was running. But the 5-toe socks, those were a revelation getting those. No more blisters. But today I didn't realize I'd actually worn a hole in one of the toes, and I hadn't noticed it properly. And so it turned out that caused me problems today. I was about 10k into it, and I realized that, my shoe was filling up with blood. But I had to run 10k to get home at that point. It didn't really hurt very much. I couldn't quite figure out what was going on until actually I had to stop and take my shoe off for a moment and figure it out. But so new socks. I've got about all the running socks I've got now are 5-toe tabi. TABI, Japanese style. So those things are awesome. Seriously, there's a lot of awesome things in Japan. It's not all the high tech stuff, It's a lot of the simple stuff that's just figured out. That's just better that people don't notice. Including the family mart socks. I wouldn't wear those on a 20k run, but they're very comfortable for around the house. They'll be pretty good for winter, I think. But yeah. So I see. Topic requests coming, and welcome. So yeah, let's get in and say hello to everybody. And as soon as I think I'm going to have an easy run tonight, it seems no matter what I do, I always end up going an hour 10. It'd be nice if I could finish in under an hour. So we'll see. Ambitions, but I've been trying to do that for 10 years, and I don't think I've really ever achieved it. So we got Quinn Ranked. Hi Andy, good to see you. Juan Johnson, good to have you in here. Celebrations, yes. Shay Roberts, good to have you in here. Shay Roberts, long time no see. Nice to have you in the chat. We've got Erin, the awesome video editor. Thanks for all the awesome videos that you've been editing and putting up this week, and I know you've been busy, and I do really, really appreciate it, as well as being the awesome moderator. So yes, everybody appreciate Erin because she's doing a great job. No technical difficulties. Man's got a poo. He does. So yeah, that wasn't exactly the reason. It was just me. I was actually just watching a pretty cool vlog. I was catching up on some Japan vlogs today. Piggles D. Gaijin got COVID. He did a video about that. There was couple of others that I was watching. Anyway, the one that I was watching just before was Steffi Harno. She did a travel vlog. She doesn't put up many videos actually, but she put up a video going to like an island in Kagoshima. Well, it was an awesome video. I mean, it was production level. It was like Chris Broad stuff. I mean, she only puts up a video a year, but that was pretty good. So worth checking out Steffi Hana. Her most recent videos, really well done. I mean, better than I could ever do. So that was pretty cool. But that's what I was doing. I wasn't pooping. But yeah, just as enjoyable. Andrew Moboy, boom. Good to see you. AV84K, we've got bada bing, bada boom. I love it. Yes, that makes complete sense. Thank you. Kuber's Tenshi, I can't quite. Squirrel, rabbit. Is that a dragon? What is that thing? Squirrel, rabbit, dragon. I'm sure it means something. But Kuber's Tenshi, good to have you in here. As always, we've got Mr. Cordy Chep. I look really red today. Well, funny you should mention, I'm just trying something different with the lights. Rather than having my normal blinding light behind me there, I've got like an LED that's like adjustable. The light's actually down quite low. You know what, maybe I'm a little bit red just because I ran so much today, but it is a different light. I'm hoping maybe this will stabilize all the crazy white balance shifting that happens on my webcam. Also, just a side note, I mean, I'm full of side notes, of course. I don't know, webcams just like... I mean, I kind of get it. They're basically a tiny little pinhole camera. You can't really make them much better than they are. But there again, I mean, somebody could always come out with a bigger lens and a bigger sensor attached to the USB thing and actually improve the quality. I've got, this is a Logitech 922, C922, and it comes out as basically the most reliable, stable, recommended webcam. But I don't know. The white balance still bounces all over the place, so I am experimenting, and who knows, I could have this is like a little USB powered LED, so the battery might run out partway through and I might have to switch on the lamp, but that's why I'm red. Anyway, squirrels, Kerberos Tenshi, I'm pretty sure that's what Kerberos Tenshi was talking about. AV84K, will I make it within an hour then? Probably not, but I can dream. I'm a dreamer. And I'm not the only... No, I'm not going to go down that route. Damaster, good to see you, Damaster. Hey, managed to join you again. Yeah, long time no see, Damaster. Good to have you in here. Odie Jr., boom. Indeed, good to have you in here. Not a lot of topics. Show will go 40 minutes overtime again. Yes, that is exactly what is going to happen. You know me well. Andrea Moboy won't stay as you have an early start tomorrow. We'll see you next week. Good night. Good night, Andrea Moboy. Have a good night. Have a good week. Get that sleep. Early start. Victoria on reduced lockdown, perhaps. Going through a Ninja Monkey, gonna have to try those socks indeed. Oh, and by the way, I did make a video with JJ Walsh during the week. We did get together for another What the Sustainability. It's always good talking to her, and she did do actually a socks giveaway. I'm tempted to do it. The problem is, for me, they're easy to get and they're easy to send. I just feel kind of creepy. I've done it with the t-shirts before for My Chan TV. But it was not creepy is the wrong word, but I feel bad asking people like for their name and postal address to send them stuff. Like even when I'm sending them something cool, it feels a little bit awkward, right? Like the whole idea is that this whole thing is sort of easy and doesn't require that sort of thing normally. But there again, if it's to give people stuff that they appreciate, maybe comments, votes down below. I mean, listen, I got a Family Mart like over there. These things are super cheap, and honestly, it'd be easy to send these socks anywhere in the world. Credit to JJ Walsh thinking of doing the giveaway and doing a draw on the show on the live stream on Friday. There's actually, the way it was set up, there's the live stream is on her channel and it's on my channel, so you can actually see it from Friday, and it was a good chat. But votes if you would like, if you think it would be good for me to do the occasional Family Mart socks giveaway or something like that. I mean, I'd be happy to send them to, especially I must admit, I mean, I would get a kind of a thrill sending them to all the parts of the world that you guys are watching this from. But at the same time, I'd feel a little bit icky asking for like your addresses. But that said, it'd be kind of cool, and it's wouldn't be that hard to do. So leave some comments. I don't know, I should put a poll or something on here if people would like to do a socks giveaway. Anyway, we've got here yes indeed, sheep 1, sheep 2, sheep 3. We've got Maddie, juice me with the news, bro. Woo, good. Hey, Maddie knows what he came here for, and yes, don't worry, I will juice you with the news. I will do that. Oh, I just see it skipped ahead a little bit. We've got one Johnson. If I have time for extra topics and have nothing touching on it, how about what do I think, a Taiwan-China conflict? How would that pan out, in particular regarding Japan? Oh, I could talk about that. That is not on my list. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go through my list first, because if I talk about that first, then I really am going to go over an hour. But let's make that a bonus round. So one Johnson, can you remind me of that at the end? I'll try to remember it myself. Yeah, a lot of interesting dynamics with that. And I have been thinking about it a little bit lately. So yeah. 270 AJ, good to have you, as always. Good to see you in here. We've got Atomic Tom, good to see Atomic Tom. Sorry to nag, but which platform should I message? Oh, she's looking for how to do that. I'll tell you what, Atomic Tom, okay, I know that you're looking to get in touch. Twitter, I think Twitter is the best. And if you're on Twitter and you can DM me there, and if you don't, I mean, even if you don't have an account, it's not like Facebook. It's not like you have to share all your personal information. You know, you can actually set up an anonymous account and say, hey, you know, DM me and let me connect you on Twitter. She is looking how to reach out. This is part of obviously the challenge of the whole thing. But yeah, Atomic Tom, I will happily connect you to JJ Walsh, and she is looking to get in touch. So yeah, happy to get you those socks. Freak, yeah, Maddie, you made it. Good on you. We got Randy Broski. Not sure that I recall that name. So good to have you in here, Randy Broski. Always great to see people saying hello, and I do appreciate it. Yeah, 9/11 anniversary yesterday. You could talk about that and go over time. Yeah, easily could. I did tweet about my experience of the day for the first time. I figured it was the 20th anniversary. I don't generally talk about my experience of it because it's something that's obviously pretty deep for Americans. I mean, the rest of the world definitely experienced it. It's one of those events that people know exactly where they were and, you know, how they felt when they heard about it. And that's the same for me. I could definitely share that. But again, maybe do that at the end. Mr. Quarty Champ, stream using a GoPro. Yeah, I've looked at that. My computer, I need to get a new computer that has a good USB 3 connection and that I could get a really good capture of it. But yeah, the GoPros work pretty well, actually. In fact, if I could stream using my GoPro, I'd just get the DSLR camera behind me and I would just use that. And that would look really, really great. But yeah, I've tried and failed at that. So I will. Probably when I update the PC, I might have a crack at that. Boom. Whoa, so many comments. Great seeing how all the action cams are. I'm really confused in the webcams market. Should technically be able to get much better images for much less money. Yeah, you can. Now, most cameras are now working really well, even with native inbuilt. Like they can actually now connect like USB to a lot of new cameras, like the Sony Vlog Cam. Plus, you know, there are such affordable and great USB capture devices out there, like the Elgato sort of stick, 4K USB 3 stick. But my laptop doesn't have, my desktop doesn't have a proper USB 3 working connection. It was built before those were standardized. So yeah, my next I keep saying laptop. My next desktop that I run this off is definitely going to have that functionality. So yeah, do the giveaway, says Aaron. Well, I should probably do that. To YY, good to have you in here. And Tim the Asian Egg, good to have you in here as well. Boom, 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 boom. Good encouragement there from Aaron. To YY, as to YY says, thumbs up. I mean, as always, if you like, if you watch this, is subscribing, commenting, all that stuff, it does help, and I do appreciate it. Definitely like if you like, do appreciate that. Boom. No one ever died from a lack of socks. Well, I tell you what, I had problems with my socks today. So bad things can happen with bad socks, and those are good socks. So yeah, priceless feeling when getting socks. Sounds like there's actually there's support for the idea. Definitely, yeah. Atomic Tom, if Twitter is cool, get in touch with me there and let me hook you up. Computer options are not a thing. Yeah. Okay, I've now caught up. Remember, as always, if you are just like lurking, say hello. You know, it's a friendly group here, and I really do enjoy saying hello to just checking in with all the people who are on here. Remember, if you've got a question or a topic for me, you can do it any time. Remember, if you want to grab my attention and you want to request a topic or a question, just say my name. You don't even actually have to @mark anymore. Just write Hiko Simon, type it correctly, and it will highlight orange. And you can see some people were doing that before. And when I go back after talking about each story, I will come back and I will look and see who's shouting my name, and then I will respond. So do that good thing. Don't be shy. And yeah, let's jump in. So, boom. Where are we at with COVID in Tokyo at the moment? Well, it's getting better, I suppose. Where we're at is we're down to like the number today, Sunday. So Saturdays, Sundays and Mondays show the numbers from Saturdays and Sundays, where they do less tests. So the numbers are always a little bit lower. But like today, again, the total was 1,067, which was down 700 from the same day last week. So week over week, it's been going down, I think, for 18 days now. Ooh, I'm going to stop the screen rotation thing there. I'll be very careful. Let's keep that flat. Week over week, it's been going down pretty steadily. I mean, it is weird in a way how these things form, each one of these waves. Like, it is kind of weird to me. Like, the disease is still just as contagious as it was. It is funny how it goes up and it goes down so consistently and in these neat waves, but that is what it is doing. That said, still a very high number of serious cases in Tokyo. People who are basically in ICU care. Yeah, where is the number on this one? In fact, actually the summary always has it pretty well. But yeah, anyway, the number in the overall serious cases, it's around 250, and it's gone down by like 3, but that's with like 20 people dying. So, obviously still more and more people still being added to the serious case numbers. It's just that there are also a lot of people dying still, so still not good in terms of the medical front. Still at risk of not being able to get hospital treatment if you need it, if you're in Tokyo. So, still not a good situation, but the overall new cases dropping is a good sign. It'll take a couple of weeks, I guess, given how long it can incubate for up to 2 weeks and develop to become really, really serious. But there again, it's been going down for over 2 weeks now. So hopefully that should start coming up in deaths and serious cases. And again, like I said last week, with vaccinations now roughly, steady on at 1.2 million shots a day. More than half of the country now is fully vaccinated. Something like 60% of the country has had at least one shot, and within that, elderly, they're doing in age groups and by vulnerability. And if you're over 60, I mean that group's nearly like I think over 90% vaccinated now. So, assuming that these waves keep going at the same cadence, the next wave, the country should be a lot more, and basically by November, everybody who wants to be vaccinated should be able to be vaccinated by November. So the hope is that the next, maybe this is as bad as the waves get. I mean, unless, of course, as can happen, the virus mutates again and, the vaccines don't work with it, which is entirely possible. But for now, based on what this is, there's a glimmer of hope that things are probably not going to be as bad on the next wave. And there are other things I'm going to talk about tonight that can connect to how things are going to reopen in terms of travel and so on. So, that's the current status of COVID in Tokyo. So, getting better. I think reasons to be optimistic. Certainly, if during the next dip we get the vaccinations mostly done, I think actually then we can start the government's now talking seriously about developing a digital coronavirus or vaccination passport. Right now, the one that you can get, the proof of being vaccinated, is like an A4 piece of paper you have to carry around with you, but they're preparing a digitized version of that, and the talk is about allowing restrictions on movie theaters, karaoke places, izakaya, and so on to be lifted, so long as they are only serving customers that have these digital passports. It's a bit like what's happening in Europe. They're talking about reopening, but using these digital passports. Some concerns about, rights and freedoms and whatnot, but to me, that's a common sense way to reopen. It's not penalizing, it's rewarding people that are vaccinated. And it'll be slow, and it will be cautious. This is Japan, but good signs anyway. Into the chat, lurking. Aaron reacting to that. We've got Iraq299, good to see you as always. And wow, Busan Kevin is lurking. Well, there you go. I called out who let the lurkers out, and Busan Kevin jumps forward. Great to see you, man. In fact, a while ago, I think I was following, I saw on Facebook, so you've moved back from China to Japan, right? That in itself is kind of an interesting story. Yeah, awesome to see you in there, man. Ninja Monkey, by the way, as always, for updates in terms of travel updates, I've got something further in the topics here, I think actually relating to this story, which Ninja Monkey also covered this week, that they're covering on his latest video, which I was also watching today on my catching up of vlogs. As always, just very good summaries on information relevant to the reopening of Japan. But this story as well that came out during the week, that Japan is going to cut the quarantine duration, and it's not a quarantine like in a lot of other countries. You don't have a mandatory quarantine hotel or facility you have to stay in. You just have to stay in your home or your hotel that you're staying in, and just not go out and do anything outside of that. And right now the period is 14 days. That's based on how long it can take to show symptoms sometimes of the virus. Honestly speaking, I mean, it's good in a way that it's a small symbolic, almost shortening of that period to 10 days if you're vaccinated. That said, of course, it doesn't mean just the fact that you're vaccinated doesn't mean that you can't get it and even get it seriously and spread it. So again, kind of like it was like the virus would show in 10 days as opposed to 14 days. So in some ways it doesn't make sense, but I get it. They're trying to basically ease and reward people who are vaccinated and go eventually towards, I hope, vaccine passport-based travel. So, good signs, but, fingers crossed. You never know how it's going to turn out. AV84K, have I used at enough? You can avoid spelling. If you used the at mark, though, you can avoid spelling mistakes. That's a good point. Spelling mistakes are a problem. Uzde. Tim the Asian Egg. If only everyone thought that way. I probably said something about 5 minutes ago that was very deep and extremely correct. And I'm sure I agree with myself and you agreeing with me. So thank you for that. Traveling Gabriel, by the way, good to have you here. Woke up early enough to catch live. Welcome. Good to have you in here, Traveling Gabriel. And like I'm telling to everybody, say hello. Come up with something in there. But yeah, back in China, back in Shenzhen now. Okay, spent 9 months in Japan last year with son Kevin. Wow. Okay, well, that's cool. I mean, China's doing super well. Obviously they've got, heavier tools that they can use to fight COVID, but they're doing an amazing job over there. So, you know what? With their family, I'm not sure. I might feel safer over there, actually, in spite of, the China virus thing. There are still problems as to where it came from, but at the same time, they've done a very good job managing it. So, yeah, good stuff. I'll read anyway. Randy Broski, the whole reason for the prolonged lockdowns and constant reminders to stay safe is that hospitals and cities don't have the infrastructure to deal with the severity. Indeed, that's exactly it. Even when it's getting better right now, the hospitals still don't have capacity. And like the story of Piggles Degaijin, you just don't want to be in a situation, this is a scary thing. This is not, the flu. It's not a cold. People get scary, life-endangering, and there are deaths now, particularly with the Delta variant that we're suffering through right now, of people in 20s, 30s dying from this, which didn't happen with the earlier, ones. So, yeah, you don't want to mess with it. Anyway, next topic, let's jump in. So, the next who's going to be the next prime minister? So I talked about this last week, but I might as well give you a bit of an update. It's actually the party vote is not going to be for another 2 weeks, so there's going to be a bit more playing around with this. Currently there are 3 declared candidates at the moment. There is Taro Kono, Sanai Takaichi, and Kishi. What's Kishi's first name? Taro or something, probably. No, you know what, I should actually, before I said his name, I should have actually made sure I knew what his first name was, but Kishida-san anyway. So as well as there is the traditional person who's run and lost in every leadership meeting. He's been number 2 in every leadership election for the last 10 years, Ishiba, former defense minister, as well as Seiko Noda, still trying to get the votes necessary to register to participate. You have to have 20 supporters within the party to do that, and the problem is she's not in a faction, so she doesn't get automatic supporters. What is interesting at the moment, right now it's between 3, although like I say, there might be 2 more who join the race. If it was a traditional LDP party, vote on who's going to be the leader of the party and the prime minister, if things were going well, if things were going well, honestly, Suga wouldn't have resigned. But with him resigning, it probably would have been Kishida, and he went about it the traditional way. He's got his own faction, he's got his own block of people who are going to vote for him. And he was just going around and being very agreeable and got other factions and whatever faction leaders to agree to vote with him. And just would have been very boring, and everyone would have just basically agreed to block vote for him, and it would have been supported. And remember, when we talk about voting, we're talking about it's decided by local LDP party chapters 50%, and by members of parliament from the LDP 50%. So it's basically just the people in the national government just voting for their friends. And this is why they have factions. The idea of the factional politics in Japan is that if you make a big team, if you get a block of like 40 people who agree that they're basically going to all vote the same for the same candidate or whatever, it means that they can negotiate roles. They can say that, okay, I'm going to get my whole block to vote for you, and if I do that, you're going to give like 5 cabinet roles to people in my faction. Okay, you can trade like that, and basically the system works if all the members of these factions agree to act as a block. It gives power to that block, and it means that they can negotiate benefits for people who join that. Interesting trend in recent years that it used to be every person in the LDP were in these factions, and honestly, given that the LDP never lost elections, the only real interesting political back and forth was the control, which factions were in control of the LDP, rather than who the LDP was going up against in the election. What's interesting in this election, however, is that because right now the government is so unpopular, there are there's two trends. One, there are a lot of members of parliament, including actually Sanai Takaichi and Seiko Noda, for example, who are not members of factions. They don't have their own factions, and they're not members of factions that will automatically support them for running for PM. So they've got to go around and persuade people to support them. The second thing is that a lot of younger members of parliament, again, are preferring to avoid factions, and those that are in factions are so spooked at the moment at how unpopular the LDP government is. They're worried that if they pick the wrong, even if there's like a horse trading deal where they get guaranteed places in cabinet, they're worried that if they back a donkey, if they back the wrong unpopular prime minister, these junior members of the LDP, who are on the party list and so on, they're going to lose their seats. And so, it's all very good voting in a block to maximize your block's power in internal elections. But if you think that that will put your job in jeopardy and that you will get kicked out of parliament, it sort of is like, well, screw that. So what's happening at the moment is kind of interesting is, 4 of the top 5 factions internally have members who are rebelling against agreeing to vote as a bloc. They want to be able to vote freely, i.e. vote for whoever they think is going to be best, and not get tied into voting for who the faction tells them who to vote for, to get the most power and influence. Which apparently benefits Taro Kono. Taro Kono, he's kind of got the quasi-support of the Taro Aso faction. He's got a big group. Taro Aso's got a big block of people in his group in parliament, and Kono is a member of that group. But at the same time, there's a lot of pressure within that group to be able to vote freely. However, generally, I think if it was just going the old-fashioned way by the party leaders, just getting around like the 5 families and deciding, it would have been Kishida. But people are worried that, he's basically not popular or well-known or liked enough. And polls are showing that, internally and externally, most people like Taro Kono the most. He's had the best track record with administrative reform in government. He's done an okay job with the distribution of vaccines. I mean, everyone can complain and say he could have done better, but he's done as getting things done in the Japanese government goes. He's done a better job than most have done or would have done. Based on that, and he's an eccentric character, but I personally find that interesting myself anyway, and the fact that he actually has gotten things done, he's gotten results, makes him an interesting candidate. So he's the most popular one. And again, what clearly is happening is factions are afraid that if they don't vote for him, that the party's going to get I guess the hope is that they have to go for the most popular politician if there's a hope to save their jobs in the national election 2 months later in November. So, interesting times. It looks like the internal LDP faction-based rule is coming to an end, and it's because Taro Kono is the front runner. And although there are interesting other candidates, and they're putting up their slogans, and honestly, they don't really have policies in the LDP. They just do what the bureaucracy tells them to do. Taro Kono, he set some interesting precedents of being willing to take fax machines away from bureaucrats to their rage, and forcing things like digital signature, and basically forcing, oh god, no, that's playing a video. And last week when it played a video, it destroyed the screen capture. Oh, it's back, good. So, he's done a lot of things that have riled bureaucrats. Why is it doing that? Oh, okay, close. But oh, that's not good. Technical issues, they have returned. Oh, come on, come on. What's happening? Okay. Let me just see if I can fix this. Okay, maybe I can restart this. Oh, have I saved it? That's unusual. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, saved, fixed, technical problem resolved. There we go. So anyway, Taro Kono, he is, yeah, so basically, you know, he's gotten things done. He wears eccentric face masks. He's got a sense of humor. He's got a thing about, there was something about some British, there's a thing during the week, just for a typical example of Taro Kono being Taro Kono. He was, by the way, educated in America, in like Connecticut. He went to like a fancy, you know, one of those private schools in New England. But as a result, he's fluent in English. He's got a weird but kind of, I find, endearing sense of humor. For example, there was a British politician who was talking about wanting to sell British marmalade to Japan, but there were like there's some sort of issue with that, where they were like, somebody's probably going to correct me on this, but there were like internal things blocking selling this marmalade to Japan, and we should be able to sell British marmalade. And he retweeted with a comment, you know, Jeremy, I want to eat your marmalade. Kind of creepy, but kind of funny. So anyway, he's the number one guy. The other two, Kishida has just pledged to be nice to people. Wonderful. I mean, that's kind of, you know, what everyone kind of does, and that's the extent of his manifesto. And Sanai Takaichi's kind of gone back to her old form of declaring instant war on China. She'll be kind of interesting anyway. She's obviously realized that she's got to stand out, and she's got Abe behind her. So yeah, she's pledged that even as Prime Minister, she's going to go to Yasukuni, and she won't be sorry. She goes to Yasukuni every year. And she'll be boosting Taiwan to fight against China. And yeah, so topic from John San 1 earlier, which I'll come back later, but very naturally. Oh, she also wants to increase Japanese defense spending has been limited to 1% of GDP, basically voluntarily since World War II. She's saying, yeah, we should make it like 2% now. Because, you know, China's spending a lot more than that at the moment, and, you know, they're looking to do just a general encircling sort of strategy at the moment. So she's going back to being a hawk, which is kind of traditionally what she was. So, you know, she's going for that vote. So interesting to see how that resonates. But those are the three candidates right now. And yeah, I would guess that Taro Kono, just based on him being the most popular choice, not a Koizumi exactly, but a bit like a Koizumi, a bit of an eccentric outsider. Be interesting to see how he goes anyway. So that's what's happening with politics at the moment. Yay for autoplay. EDIR, good to see you. And yes, indeed, that was scary. Boom. I'm going to go back up here. What do we got here? I don't view spelling mistakes. Yes, indeed. Quentin Racket, I couldn't have said it better myself, or spelled it better. Iraq 299 Fumio Kishida, thank you for you saved me there, but you could be excused for not knowing. It's always Kishida-san. Yeah, it's always Kishida-san. The first names really just don't matter in Japan. Sometimes second names don't either. And remembering, of course, that second names are first names and first names are second names. And, you know, just to be safe, I call Taro Kono, who insists on being called Kono Taro. I like to call him Taro Kono Taro, just to make sure I cover all my bases. DJ Sunny Sadab, buenas noches. Good to have you in here. Sunai, I should say, by the way. Good to see you. Your daughter is back to Hoikuen after a 2-week break. Well, congrats. Yeah, my son was at home for like a month and a half. So last week was, I mean, I was basically just doing what I always do, just working at home by myself. But yeah, it was nice to be able to like go out for a run at lunch and do stuff like that. So yeah. Thank heavens the schools in Hoikuens are open. So, Sadiq, Hakan Gurus, good to have you in here. Hello, Japan. Indeed, hello, Florida. Good to see you. Good to have you in the chat. We can have a 2-minute ad. I must admit, I should be able to have like the shot of, I think British TV used to have like flowers that they would put up a field of flowers with calming music during technical issues. But yes, the marmalade drama. That was I like the drama, the marmalade drama. That was just me. So anyway. Next story. Just a kind of interesting story this week, and I find it interesting that there's a lot of great things happening at the moment with EVs, with electric cars, with renewable power, with decarbonization. There's a lot of positive things happening, and I love all of them. And I'm just, maybe it's just my advancing middle age that I just like. I don't like just jumping to simple positions about everything. I find something that's happening right now. A lot of people on social media, a lot of people in the news are kind of just bashing on Toyota right now. Toyota, with the headline over and over, Toyota lobbying against EV requirements. Toyota, is supposed to, doesn't sell any EVs, and they're against these EV mandates that are coming out in California and soon in New York as well, and other places. To convert all cars to be, pure electric. And basically what Toyota's saying is, hey, look, we're environmental friendly. We gave you the Prius, and, most of our cars, particularly in Japan, they're all hybrid. Let us keep making hybrid a little bit longer because, basically, in places like Aichi, the entire prefecture economy, whole states, whole prefectures in Japan, have their economies tied up with the supply chain for parts associated with internal combustion engine cars. And, hybrids, which are actually fantastically complicated. You've got the electric motor and the internal combustion engine motor, and you've got to make them work together. A lot less simple, a lot more complicated to build than electric cars. So it would, in some ways, just be easier and cheaper to do. And this is what Tesla's done. They've just come out with the leanest possible made EV cars, and they're killing it. They are literally disrupting, an industry that can't convert over easily. And it's because, Toyota's explained, it's not so much a technology problem. It's a problem that, we have all of these dependent contractors and suppliers, and we don't want to just suddenly destroy, Aichi Prefecture by cutting off the economy there. We need time to help our suppliers to convert over and be part of that. We want to get credit for environmentally friendly cars that we have made and we will keep making. But this whole, making everything a Tesla, everything a full EV or and nothing else is going to cause a lot of social and economic disruption. And look, part of it's self-interest. Certainly, Toyota is locked into long-term supplier contracts that probably go beyond the dates of the mandates that it's required to keep buying engine parts and so on from people. But I also think this is Japan, and I do also take Toyota as sincerely concerned about, actually leaving. One thing about Nissan is that Nissan, while for all the praise that Gon got for turning around Nissan, particularly globally, and even, the media in Japan gave him praise for it, I know a lot of people from in and around Nissan, and a lot of people in Nissan and even in other car manufacturers were horrified at what Nissan did. The way that it basically just overnight shut down huge chunks of its supply chain. Sony went through the same thing, by the way, and had similar backlash. But it was actually just the way it, just coldly, based on economics, just decided to ruin a lot of small, factories and engineering businesses and so on overnight just to save money, which they needed to do. The whole business was going to collapse. But, it's something in Japan that, companies are not purely about making money for shareholders or getting higher CEO wages. The CEOs and companies like Toyota, make remarkably little money compared to, what you would expect or what people get in the West. And, they're coming in, they're genuinely worried about, making sure that their friends in these supplier companies are, actually taken care of and that they're not cut off. So I actually, and kind of the proof, if you want proof that they're not anti-EV, they've got more battery patents and more EV patents than any other company has, including Tesla. Toyota's actually got all the technology to go full EV. The problem is really it's a combination of both being too locked into the current way of making cars and not able to move fast enough to convert over to EVs. Based on all their existing legacy commitments, but also genuine concern for the people who are going to be like left out in the cold and destroyed if they do that. And and they're asking for time around that. And it's one thing as well that to make virtue signaling sort of targets, but not think of the social consequences. So I don't know. I've always thought that Toyota gets a little bit of a, they're not anti-EV. They're more EV than a lot of companies in many ways. They've got better technology and more patents and so on in it. Now they're investing $13.6 billion in batteries for them. So they really are they are getting the message, and they are pivoting, and they're promising next year to release like 20 EV models or something, right? I think Toyota is a great company. I don't own a car. I love cars. I love watching car vlogs on YouTube. In New Zealand, I drove when I was 15 years old, and I drove until I came to Japan. I haven't owned a car the 20 years I've been in Japan, although I do love driving when I love getting rentals and stuff like that when I take trips. But I'm excited to see what Toyota's going to do when it does convert. And I'm kind of I feel like Toyota should get more slack than companies like Volkswagen, which in a way is moving faster on EVs, but it's doing it on the back of having actually deceitfully created extra polluting diesel cars that have actually caused Europe to miss all of its emission goals, for example. I mean, actually lied and deceived in order to hide the emissions of super dirty cars that they were selling as eco cars. The idea that diesel could be clean, they were selling that, and everyone was believing it because they were German engineers. A lot of companies getting more cred. They're pivoting fast because they have no choice. But I think Toyota's trying to do the right thing, and I am interested to see the cars that they come out with. I've got a Lexus dealer near where I live, and they're beautiful cars, right? So yeah, I think it's going to be actually really exciting to see when Toyota gets in on this. Just like with hydrogen lately, it's been getting the blue hydrogen being some studies saying that it's more dirty than just burning the coal straight, like carbon capture doesn't work. And I do think that people being too married to one solution, is kind of I think we should have a lot of solutions, and we should work on making all the solutions as good as possible and find the best use cases for every solution. We definitely do need to, electrification and then improvements in how we get electricity. There's so much exciting things ahead. The fact that we were able to contain a fusion reaction using lasers the other week for the first time ever, that we could be looking at having actual fusion power in real life pretty soon. The way that space stuff is expanding, and we could have space-based, solar power beaming down, energy to Earth, in whatever time. So much exciting things right now. And with this as well, hydrogen-powered cars, electric cars, hybrids and so on. It's an exciting time anyway. So, and look, right now, for all my sympathy for Toyota, if I was buying a car right now, I would totally buy a Tesla. They look exciting and fun, and they're amazing, and that's why they're disrupting. And just like I went out and got an iPhone, even though until there was an iPhone, Japanese smartphones were like the best smartphones in the world, and all of a sudden overnight they weren't. And this is kind of what's happening with cars. And Toyota better look out, but at the same time, I respect that Toyota's trying to go about it in a way that's kind of sensitive to the community it looks after. So anyway, it's interesting times. I'm curious, does anyone here in the comments have electric cars or hybrid cars even? Kind of interesting one. But F Volkswagen, and I say that as a German from Lower Saxony. I didn't know that, Atomic Tom. Well, it was pretty disappointing. It was pretty shocking. Like the Dieselgate thing wasn't bad. That's as bad as things go. I could forgive them for making the Hitler car, but Dieselgate I have more trouble forgiving. But that said, they're making nice EVs now, so maybe they can make up for it. And again, you respect their engineers, but that was pretty awful. Magpie 882, good to have you in the chat. Thank you for saying hello. And if anyone else lurking in the chat, just say hello. It's nice to see people in here. Boom, I'm going to head to the next story. I'm making excellent progress, I must say, at the moment. 11:16, I could do this. I mentioned the travel time cut, so we can skip that one. Family Mart, more in the news. This is just a trend nationwide. I must admit, this is another cool thing I love about technology right now. Back in the day, one thing about living in New Zealand and Australia is particularly Australia, where Australia, you can have towns that are like multiple days drive apart, like almost on those sorts of scales in some parts of the country. And things like the post office and things like sort of basic services, were always thought of as something that the government, they were like part of the government. The post office was the equivalent of the local government office for a long time. And it wasn't really until about 20, 30 years ago that we started to get this idea that post offices, no, these are businesses that governments shouldn't be involved in. And when they were sold off, just like with bank branches and so on, it became a matter of, can we run a post office profitably, like by having a post office in every town? Is it a mandatory service that should be available, like telephones and electricity everywhere? Or, but if you make it a private business and it's not profitable and you can't find people to staff it or whatever, what's been happening all over a lot of places in the world, or a lot of these things that were considered essential services based on, sort of hard economics are disappearing, and a lot of the things that you need in daily life. So on the one hand, when people talk about these, walk out without paying, these sort of, unmanned, and I guess there's different ways that you do these shops at the moment. Of course, right now in Family Mart, there are, and I use all the time, the self-service counter. Just scan the barcode and pay yourself. If there's a line of people, there's no reason if you're just buying one item, and you don't need a bag either. So, the self-service is fine. And that's one approach. But of course, this cool technology at the moment, the sort of walkout, which I know is spreading all over America at the moment, but it's also being done in parallel separately by Lawson and 7-Eleven and Family Mart are getting in on that too, because there's a problem right now that, again, they're just having trouble filling up all the people that they need. All these stories about convenience stores that have trouble staying open 24 hours because they can't find people to work on those shifts. Just the underemployment problem, the fact that you have all of these rural towns emptying of young people and becoming ghost towns. And there's this problem as they're going through this transition. How do you, keep essential stuff open? And I think that this kind of unmanned technology, apart from the fact it's convenient and it's cool, it's kind of weird. I've used it in Seattle where you walk in and you feel kind of guilty. Like when you're walking out, you feel like, hey, everybody, I'm not hiding anything, cameras, have a look, I got this peanut butter. You feel like you have to explain yourself when you go out. It's a new thing, I suppose, but the technology is great, and what it means is that even when you have these rural towns that are rapidly depopulating, that you're still going to be able to have convenience stores and the functions that they provide, which are amazing, not just selling awesome socks, but you can do all your postal stuff there, you can pay your taxes, you can pay your bills, you can do all sorts of stuff. You can print, you can fax, you can phone, you can have deliveries sent there and pick them up from your local convenience store. They're awesome things. So the fact that you'll be able to keep the convenience of convenience stores, even where you're having this sort of depopulation and underemployment problem in a lot of places, is pretty awesome. And obviously, it's good business for the convenience stores. It means that they can run them more cheaply and continue to make money from these places with a lower overhead. And of course, the jobs that remain will still involve, it's like the stores the shelves don't stock themselves. There'll be people there to do that sort of thing. But it just gives an option to allow these places to not get shut down and to leave remote towns, or increasingly depopulating towns, turning into ghost towns. So I think it's actually a really, really interesting time, and it's great tech. And I'm curious I hope one of these opens up nearby just so I can go check it out. But 1,000, unmanned stores in Japan by 2024, and I believe that the ones that they're talking about here are ones where you can walk out basically where they say you use a smartphone. So I think it'll be something where you log into, as you go in, that you have to register who you are. And I think the cameras will figure out what you picked up and charge based on identifying you with the smartphone when you come in and out. But pretty cool. Anyway, exciting times. When I shared this, some people on Twitter talked about they find the monitoring society thing kind of creepy, and the idea that they're not only doing it just for the functionality of the store, but they're trying to make money off your data. it's not easy. I mean, right now, the privacy laws do not make it easy to sell data. I'm not sure that there's much business in selling or trading data. I mean, Facebook's obviously made a business out of it. I'm not sure that that's the goal. I mean, look, but at the same time, if they see me walking into the shop and it's like Minority Report and they say, Mr. Eco Simon, yes, we know that you're here for blueberry yogurt. You're always getting blueberry yogurt. It's on special today. That's literally like having a person there who knows you really well and is like giving you information that's useful, So I don't mind targeted ads if it's actually relevant and useful to what I want to do in the shop, and it's mutually beneficial, right? If they show me things that I want to get, if they know what I like, if they realize that I'm always going to buy a certain thing, and it means that they're going to make sure it's stocked and available, and they'll have better data to sell to me. That's good. To me, that's good. I mean, I don't want to have like Facebook type Scientology ads, nothing. Well, I won't go down that route, but I don't want to see those ads. They're not relevant to me, and I do not want to see them. And so I don't want to have short-term high-interest loan ads pushed in front of me when I go into an unmanned family mart. But if the yogurt's on special, I want to know all about that. So I'm okay with it. But obviously not for everybody. And for those, I guess that's going to increasingly happen is you're just going to have to find a family mart that doesn't work like that. But I think this is sort of the way of the future anyway, and it's good to be in Japan experiencing a bit of the future. We've got Guys English World in the chat. Excellent to see you. Good evening, sir. Some other comments in here. We've got Tudom. Hey, Tudom, good to have you in the chat. Just scanning to make sure I got everyone. Milchman too. Hey, everyone's rocking in. I love it. Thanks for saying hello as well, everyone. I do appreciate it. Going back up here. So some comments. We've got the Master, hardcore EV supporters totally forgetting about superb e-fuels and battery production problems. Well, yeah, battery production, apart from the issues getting all the materials, which are hard to get and rare, and the fact that lithium batteries have limited life. Whereas, again, hydrogen, there are other things that do things like this, but hydrogen you can use as a combustion engine fuel, which emits water, right? So, I agree. And the point being, just be open-minded about all the solutions. Teslas are awesome. I would love a Tesla myself, but the idea that we should cancel all other solutions and research is just a bit silly to me. So I'm with you, Demaster. AV84K, but where does the electricity for charging the electric cars come from? Well, that's the point. It's the first step. The point is internal combustion engine car is always an internal combustion engine car. And right now in Japan, something like 40% of power generation is from basically internal combustion engine generators. But the point is that once you've got everything on electricity, then you can focus on improving the mix of renewables, which governments are doing, and they can control that to make sure that the electricity going into the cars is cleaner. Of course, huge problems with lithium mining, with disposal of batteries, recycle of the rare elements that are in them, and so on. Electrification is seen as a big step towards being able to cut emissions from things that at the moment basically run off old-fashioned boiler technology and cause emissions. So it's interesting times. Nuclear is a good temporary solution. I agree as well. And yes, I went through the nuclear accident here, but even with that, if you accept that we have a climate crisis that's caused by humans and that we need to immediately do everything we can do to cut carbon emissions, nuclear is right now one of the best solutions for it. And it's not, we want to get rid of it as soon as we can. Most of the nuclear reactors in Japan are beyond their planned lives anyway. So we should be trying to succeed nuclear power with replacement non-carbon technology, power sources. But right now, so long as they can get them up to scratch with the new safety standards and get them launched again, we should be using all the nuclear that we can, frankly, and looking to replace them as quickly as possible. But they're definitely part of the solution in terms of decarbonization. So yeah. All going down here, we've got Tim the Asian Ink. I get sexy women's products commercials. Hey, well, if that's your thing, I mean, who knows? Maybe you'll be. Maybe you could buy some different stuff. Dan H, hey everyone, I forgot today's Sunday. That happens. What are my thoughts on PayPal and Paydi? Oh yeah, I saw that thing. In fact, I know someone who worked at Paydi. I don't know anything about it other than one person who worked at it. I mean, look, if it makes I use PayPal for bits and pieces, so if it makes PayPal more accessible in Japan, that's a good thing. Sanae Takaichi seems on a whole nother level of crazy compared to Abe. She always was on a different level of crazy compared to Abe. She's mellowed a lot, but she seems to be bringing back the crazy right now. But at the same, I think it's partly trying to stand out, perhaps. But yeah, I'm with you, Dan H. That's kind of what I always thought of her, and I'm not sure that she's really, I think this run is not about winning. I think it's about making her a credible candidate for a future run. I think that's what this is about. But yeah, it's interesting to see where she's going with it. Traveling Gabriel. What if they increase the price because they know you always get a coffee in the morning? Well, then I'll go to 7-Eleven, or I'll go to Lawson, or I'll go to, AM PM. I'll go to any of the other convenience stores that are everywhere. I mean, where I live, I could walk to like 4 convenience stores within like easily less than 5 minutes walk from my place. Most places it's a strategy to try to take over neighborhoods by putting them everywhere. It's so competitive that they wouldn't get away with that. Whereas if I went into, imagine going into a convenience store that was like an AI robot version of Cheers, where everyone knows your name, when it knows. I used to go to a convenience store in Kashiwa, and I was just young and stupid, and I'd just get the same bento all the time. And it got to the point where the staff there recognized me so much. One time I went there and it was sold out, and the person from the counter shouted, "Wait, we've got more in the back." And they ran out the back to get me the bento that wasn't put out on the shelf yet, and said, "I've got it for you. I know this is what you want, isn't it?" And I realized, okay, I have a problem. But I also thought it was actually really, really nice. It was like Oji-san that did it. But it's nice to have it's nice to be recognized, right? It's nice to have it's nice to have human contact. But in this sort of day and age where that's less possible, if an AI can give you that sort of an experience, like know what you want, can hicco when you come in the shop. I mean, yeah, I dig that actually. I think there's all sorts of chances to give kinds of personalized customer service that are just not possible. Without that kind of enhancement, and even for stores with staff, I mean, think about it. It can actually give everybody. Again, it might be a little bit creepy to have strangers say, "Hey, Hiko, how's it going?" They can have like AR information about me and so on. Hey, dude, I think you're eating too much of the meat pies. They might tell you that. But like I say, I think we'll get to a comfortable place where I think it'll be an interesting experience. So yeah, I don't know. I still think as you know, I'm a techno optimist. But there we go. I thought I was going to finish early. I think I started 2 minutes late, so I have 4 minutes to go. But yeah, these are good comments. I'm digging the comments. So there we go. Dan H, don't forget, lots of the battery materials are made using slave labor. Hell yes. I mean, yes. And how dirty they are to produce and so on, and the fact that some of them are really, really limited. But again, then you got fuel cells. And fuel cells are much simpler than batteries and much cleaner. They're less efficient. But, so there are lots of solutions. And they're always trying new materials with batteries. So there's all sorts of stuff. 3 minutes left. Trevor Gabriel, whoever knows your name, damn straight. Anyway, was there anything else? Latest news worth talking about. Oh yeah, that was the JJ Walsh show, so that was awesome. Oh, and these are the awesome edits that Erin made. Thank you for those. Those were all awesome, and we're done. Those are the shows. Those were all the planned topics. That said, John Sun 1 did ask for my thoughts on China and Taiwan, so I'm not going to finish on. I'm going to do this very fast. I do think that both the Senkaku Island issue and the fact that that's strategically important, both as a route through which Japan would supply Taiwan if it were to supply the defense of Taiwan against an aggressive military attack from China, as well as the fact that China might decide to take it as a precursor to invading Taiwan. So, from that perspective, I think the defense of the Senkaku Islands is actually part of, the defense of Taiwan. The fact that that's open, that gives a highway, not just for Japanese forces to, and the Japanese government to supply and, help out the people in Taiwan, but also, of course, for the huge military bases in Okinawa from the Americans to be able to go and reinforce and support Taiwan. So, absolutely. Plus the fact that even if it went the other way around, which I doubt that it would, but if it did, if China were to invade Taiwan first, all its other claims, why would it stop with the Senkaku Islands, or why would it stop with Taiwan? Why wouldn't it go and grab the other islands? I think Japan recognizes that as well. The fact it's building these artificial islands to set up its own, 7-dash line. So right now. I think Japan absolutely sees it. The fact that the Okinawan archipelago, China doesn't mind talking about claiming Okinawa, and it's not just because of the 200-year-old fact it was a vassal kingdom of China, but strategically, ships that go out from Beijing and that want to go out into the Pacific and trade with the world, essentially, they have to go through either the Taiwan Strait or they have to go through Okinawa. They have to go between those islands, and that's a geopolitical choke point that Japan can use if it wanted to really effectively blockade China. It's a vulnerable point, so they want to make it safe, which means taking some or all of those islands. I think Japan's resolve to defend itself can be partially measured through its willingness to defend Taiwan. And the fact that, Taiwan was criticized for even other countries talking about, being committed to a peaceful resolution to the Taiwan deal, and that getting rebuked in the Global Times and the Xinhua lately, that China's got a right to do whatever the hell it wants to Taiwan. Pretty scary stuff that they're saying. So I think Japan and the United States need to make sure that they are giving confidence to not only to Taiwan to make sure Taiwan itself is safe, but to make sure that they're making it clear that if they flinch, right now China's building up to walk in and take over the place, and they still need to think and believe that it's going to be a fight that they might lose, which it would be if Japan and the United States are involved in Taiwan's defense. So I think it's super important, and from that perspective, I think it's something universal across all the LDP candidates that, in fact, Kishida comes from a faction that was always considered the pro-China, the China-friendly faction within the LDP, and he's being cornered by people saying, so what do you think about China? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And he's being forced to say, no, we've got to stand up for Japan, for common values that we have, which include respect for human rights and so on, which is all sort of code talk. He's not talking about Taiwan directly, but they're pointing out that, they're showing a united face against China. So, whether it's been out in the open or not, Japan and Taiwan are super close. And, it would be really interesting to see if Japan would ever militarily defend Taiwan. I think most of the LDP believes that Japan should, but knows that the populace wouldn't support defending a foreign country. But there again, there's a large part of the population in Japan, for all this belief that World War II and what Japan did in China was a form of racism against Chinese, is shown kind of contradicted, one, by the fact, of course, that Japan had these allies, military allies in Manchuria, which, yes, was a puppet state, but it did have a separate military, and they were Chinese people that fought for Japan, as well as Taiwan. And the fact that post all of that very complicated relationship with the Dalian and so on, it's hard to acknowledge that, but you can with Taiwan. Taiwan's the only Chinese entity which Japan can actually acknowledge having wonderful relations with, arguably the best relations, non-military based relations that Japan has with any country in the world. So Taiwan's got a special place for Japan, and I really hope that Japan keeps loudly committed to its defense, to deter China. That's my view on that. So 911 story. Aaron asked for the 911 story. I'll talk about that. Thank you, Aaron. You're never going to let me finish on time anyway. It's okay. I've got nothing else to do. So 911 story, I tweeted it, but the thing is, I suppose, on the one hand, and look, people from just about every country died in this. It's the nature of the World Trade Center that there's just so many. 24 Japanese people died in it. I don't know how many New Zealanders were involved, or if any were involved. But look, I was living in Japan, and it's funny, New York at this time of year has exactly a 12-hour flip with New York. So, I remember I had a co-worker who lived in the same sort of neighborhood. I was living in Komaba at the time, near Shibuya. And, I was a member of a gym in Sasazuka, which is near Shinjuku, which I could get to by bicycle about 10 minutes from my home. And, I was left work early. It was a weeknight. And I was going to go and play some squash with a workmate, Japanese workmate from the IT company I was working at. And, we played. I think we'd just come out from basically, had a quick game. We're going out for dinner after. It was like 8:45. And I'd just come out of the shower, 8:45 p.m. here, 8:45 a.m. in New York. 8:43 was, I believe, when the first plane hit the first tower. And my friend was already out of the showers before me, and he was in the lobby, and he's pointing to the TV when I came out and said, hey, a plane crashed into the World Trade Center in America. And I remember everyone was sort of looking at the TV screen and thinking, well, everyone at that point in the world, but the point was this was already live on Japanese TV and on cable TV, which I had at home. So everyone's looking at it. It's kind of like, wow, was that on purpose? Was that an accident? Like, what's going on? But of course, that moment, my friend said to me, dude, a plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. We were sort of looking, it's like, wow. I was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go home anyway. So I jumped on my bike. I raced home and bicycled home on the mamachari. I turned on the TV at home. I got home at about 9. And right after I turned on the TV, I put it onto CNN to see what the American media was saying about what was happening. And basically, right as I turned on the TV was when the second plane hit, and that was where, and I was confused at first. I was like, when it showed the plane crashing, I was like, oh, is that video footage of the first one? But then you realize from the shots, oh, that's the other tower. That's the second one. And then you realize as you're watching it, at the same time that the news, you watch it as well, and you realize, oh, crap, this was on purpose. What the hell is happening? And then you hear, and the thing is that I also remember about this was how confused and chaotic the news coverage was. I mean, even the news coverage was completely panicked. And when you had the attack on the Pentagon and the other crash plane and so on, and all the stories at the time that there were car bombs and other terror attacks happening all over New York, and like it was an attack, there was a lot of people believing it was like a nationwide attack at the time, but it certainly looked and felt like that. For people in America, this was happening from the morning and through the day, so everyone was glued to their TVs during the day. For me, it was like at night. It was 12 hours later, but it was still obviously, so it was one of these things. I must have stayed up to like 3 a.m. and it was just very disturbing. And again, I certainly remember watching, horrified, stunned, watching this thing, happening live on the other side of the world, but watching it. I'd been in New York myself. Staying in a hotel right beside the World Trade Center. Actually, my only time in New York, I spent a day in New York when I was doing my IT training just a year before in America. So seeing the buildings on fire, and again, you see them on fire, and they didn't look like they were going to fall to me. I couldn't even comprehend that. So when they collapsed as well, I couldn't comprehend that either. So it's one of these things. I mean, everyone was like this. Everyone's just stunned, looking at their TVs, traumatized for a couple of days, and I was like that myself. Eventually went to sleep, but that was a pretty, in terms of remembering exactly where you were, what you were doing. I came out of a gym when someone told me. I looked up on the TV in the lobby of a gym, raced home, watched it on TV, remember the whole thing, and it was very impactful here. It's nothing compared to, of course, what people in the United States went through, I think, but certainly it was impactful, I think, to the whole world. I also commented on Twitter, actually. People talk about these sort of generational events that people remember. Of course, the Great East Japan earthquake. I actually remember my mum, when I got home from school, talking to someone on the phone, I think it was, when I got home. It was terrible what happened with the space shuttle accident. And I was a huge NASA, I'm wearing it right now, the NASA shirt. So I was like traumatized by that as well. I certainly remember the moment I heard about the Challenger accident. For my parents' generation, it was about the Kennedy assassination. Something clicked with me when I was doing the math on this. I was like, didn't that happen in like November? My dad's birthday is on November 23. Kennedy's assassination happened when my dad was 12 years old, but the day after. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22. And when I grew up, Dad was always talking about there used to be this President Kennedy, and he said lots of cool things. And he's a great man, and he was a real fanboy of John F. Kennedy. And it turned out it didn't click until last night that yes, Kennedy was shot on the 22nd of November. My dad's birthday was the 12th birthday was on the 23rd of November, but New Zealand's a day ahead, so it happened on my dad's 12th birthday. In terms of the time zones. So yeah, it's funny how events, America just has a huge impact on the world. People talk about the moon landings again, before my time, but so many events that affect all of humanity, like in the last 100 years, have been things that have happened in America, and they affect the rest of us as much as people in America. And I must admit, it's been a crazy time since then, of course. But it's interesting to reflect on the 20-year anniversary of that, and to reflect on the fact that I can still remember it like it happened yesterday. Honestly. A lot of things I don't remember at all. I barely remember what job I was doing at that time, but I remember exactly the words that were said to me when I first found out about it. So, interesting times. I am 10 minutes over. That's the tradition. Magpie882, you're in the US in junior high. Watch the TV coverage in day class, nothing else, indeed. Quint Rankid, don't forget the plane that crashed into the Pentagon, the one in Pennsylvania. I don't recall what was the target for that one. I don't recall either. Was that, yeah. yeah, I don't know if that was ever clarified, but I think they were going to turn it around and hit something else in Washington anyway. The FAA used the plan from Y2K to ground all the planes so quickly. BTC Chiba, good to have you in here. So yes, indeed. Aaron doesn't do Twitter. That's okay. You don't have to do Twitter. Yeah. All the sort of stuff. So anyway, that is the show. What do you know? I'm 10 minutes over like always, but that's just because we have so much to talk about. I'll be back in next week as I always am. Remember, as always, well, one, if you enjoy the show, please add a like. It does really, really help. I do appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. That does help the channel. If you just want to keep up with me or message with me, Atomic Tom, if you want to get your socks, definitely follow me on Twitter, and just to keep up with regular stuff. Also, on the socks thing, I think I saw some things later that people thought that the socks giveaway was a good idea, but maybe leave some comments. I'll figure out a good way to measure that. Again, I don't want to do anything sort of creepy, but you know what? If people are up for it, maybe next week I'll consider a socks giveaway. That might be kind of cool. So have a good week, everybody. Stay safe. Don't get the Rona. Get vaccinated. Do all that good stuff. And pardon me. Peace. Boom. See you later. You have a nice day, nice night, a nice afternoon wherever you are. Randy Broski, thanks for that. Have a good one.